Welcome to the Mindful Motivating series, which aims to help you on your path to live a purposeful and happy life. Welcome everyone to episode 1. I'm delighted to be joined today by a very special guest, Pat Divilly. Pat is an author, fitness and wellness coach, entrepreneur and speaker from Galway in Ireland. And he was recognised by Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg for his use of social media and was named one of Ireland's best young entrepreneurs in 2014. So welcome, Pat. Thanks so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's brilliant. So Pat, I've been following you for a while in your work and I find it absolutely fantastic and really inspiring. You've achieved so much and continue to gain such great recognition. Would you be able to tell us a bit about your story and how you've got to where you are now?
Yeah, obviously I'm in this gym space to a certain degree. That was always what I wanted to do from the time I was 12 or 13. I think I first joined the gym at that kind of age, and the first time I walked in I said someday I'm going to have my own gym. So that was always the ambition, always the dream. People who have heard me speak before will have heard me talk about going to Dublin. So I went to college, did a master's in nutrition, and then I moved to Dublin when I came out of college, and I wanted to give the dream a go, and I thought it was kind of my time to shine and everything was going to fall into place. But I really struggled with my first business up there, just through not knowing anybody and not having a network and just being in the big city on my own. And I struggled, and I ended up coming home on Christmas Eve 2011, so 4 years ago, and I fell into a bit of a dark hole at that time just because I felt like a failure. Having to borrow money to get the bus fare home and having failed with that business, when I kind of put out an image that things were going really well through social media, when it just wasn't the reality at all. And then got work in a pizza place back in Galway, did that for 6 months, moved back in with my parents, and something kind of sparked me to give it one more go with the personal training. I was a bit lost, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I started that fitness class 4 years ago down on the local beach, and it just grew. So 5 people to 100 people in 3 months down on the beach, and 500 people within a year. And then I realized the childhood dream, which was to open the gym. And since then, I've obviously a lot's happened. I've written a couple of books. I've started doing seminars around the country. I've actually sold the gym since because it wasn't my thing anymore. Online courses have reached 11,000 people all over the world now, and I'm kind of moving more into the personal development space now. So I still do the fitness stuff, but I'm obsessed with the idea of kind of what success is, and helping people define what success means to them and helping them sort of live a life that means more to them. So that's a kind of brief synopsis.
That's brilliant. And you said there that even though you had felt like you weren't able to achieve what you wanted to in Dublin, and when you moved home, you gave it one last shot, as you called it, to try again. And do you feel that by doing that, and even though you ended up, developing another gym and selling it on, that those steps have led you now to living a purposeful life, so following your life purpose and doing exactly what you want to do at this point?
Yeah, it was absolutely everything at the time. And, anyone I mix with that I suppose is doing well in their chosen field or is kind of living that kind of life where they feel very fulfilled. And any of them that I've met have kind of had a big adversity or a big kind of shifting point that has defined them. So it's something I would definitely tell people that are listening that are a bit lost, that sometimes you have to go through that. You have to be in the pain or, be in the lost period to figure it out. And you obviously learn so much more from those periods than you do where everything is hunky-dory. So I've kind of reframed how I look at failures and how I look at the down periods in my life, because you're always going to have them ups and downs. I think, we talk about positive thinking. I think the most positive thinking is to realize that there will be down days, and you just need to go with them, and you need to recognize there's going to be a lesson within it. I showed myself what I was capable of during that period of, starting from scratch, and I had learned empathy at that point. I realized that, a lot of people had mental stuff going on. They didn't, I was very down in the dumps, but it showed me that a lot of people might have that because I was putting on a brave face. So what was to say everyone wasn't struggling? And that just taught me, personal training. It taught me that personal training wasn't about fitness. It was about how you treat people and how you make people feel they belong to something and make people believe they can do things. So there's lessons in everything, I think.
Absolutely. And I always find with my own work, like when someone comes to me for a session, like if I meet them in person or on Skype, and no matter where somebody is in themselves, how they're feeling about themselves, or even where their life circumstances are, I always see that potential for somebody to shine, because I do believe we're supposed to live purposeful, fulfilled lives, and that it is achievable. So when you're working with people now, and obviously you're moving from like a national forum out into an international forum, and I know you're talking about doing personal development seminars on, your courses online, but you're going to be doing talks as well abroad. How great does it feel to be able to impact people on such a large scale?
Oh, I mean, it's lovely, and some of the seminars I do now are for a handful of people still. People assume they're all going to be big seminars, and some of them are for hundreds, and some of them are for bigger again. So it's regardless of how many people are there, it's kind of understanding that the way all this started for me was I had 5 people on the beach, and if I hadn't focused on those 5 people, I never would have had anything else. Yeah. So again, that's kind of a lesson that wherever you are, if you do the best with where you are, the next step tends to appear, because I've been the biggest goal setting guy in the world at times, but sometimes I think what happens to people is they set the big goal, but they're so focused on the future that they forget that they have to work in the present, and they have to be in the present, and they have to take it step by step. So for me, I mean, I want to have a New York Times bestseller. I want to speak in front of thousands of people in America, all that stuff. Yeah. But that's not going to happen unless I just focus day to day on being present with people, and being vulnerable, and being open, and kind of sharing what I know, and growing. And so it's exciting to be able to reach, I think we're very lucky with the internet, with the opportunities we have now, that you can share your message and share your story and share yourself, and reach that many people. So yeah, it's crazy. It's, coming from where I came from, I hope it shows people what they can do.
And in terms of getting to where you are now as well, and working, like you said, with people in small numbers and large numbers as well, would you have any advice to the listeners on how to take, action steps towards your goal, but keep in alignment with your own core values as well? Because I think, like you just mentioned there, I do a lot of goal setting as well, and we're so focused on where we want to be and trying to bring ourselves back to the present moment. But sometimes you can lose sight of yourself as well. You're so focused on what you want to achieve, and actually not even realize maybe it's out of alignment with what really is, valuable in your core.
Yeah, that was when my biggest growth probably came, I would say, 2 years ago, when from an outside perspective, I was living the dream, and I was, I had thousands of clients online. I had my gym, I had my books, I was traveling, I had lots of stuff going on. But internally, I wasn't happy anymore. I wasn't enjoying it. I was burnt out. I'd become completely attached to, I wasn't Pat anymore, I was Pat Divilly Fitness. And I didn't know the difference between my business and who I was. And I was losing connections with the people close to me because I wasn't making the time for them. I wasn't investing in myself. I was just completely, I was fearful that I was going to go back to being a nobody again. Or I was going to go back to being broke, and, having to get a job that I didn't want, and all that kind of stuff. That fear-based thinking just made me go a million miles an hour. So, I learned at that period that you have to do things that make you feel good, and throughout. I mean, the reason my business grew was because I was passionate about it. Yeah. But then you need to shift gears every now and then. So, my first 2 years of teaching classes, I loved it, and I loved the community I was building, and I could give anyone a step-by-step formula on how I did it, but if they didn't have the passion for it, it wouldn't have happened. So it's going to feel like a slog starting a business, but if you love it, you'll do it. It's going to feel like a slog training for a marathon, but if it's a true goal, you'll do it. But if you're someone who's been doing the same thing for years and slogging and grinding, and you're not enjoying it, then maybe it's time to say this isn't the right move for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I use Conor McGregor as an example on that one, that he's trained for the last, 15 years probably, and he talks about the money and all the fame and all that kind of stuff, but there was no money and there was no fame in mixed martial arts up until a couple of years ago. So we could look at him and say, okay, I'm going to train for the next 15 years so I can make the millions. But he got there because he was passionate, and because he loved what he was doing. So Yeah, probably gone off on tangent there, but
No, I love that. I really admire Conor McGregor. I'm not really into MMA fighting, but I still get up like in the
yeah,
middle of the night to watch all his fights, and I sit there with my husband saying, I just love him. He has such passion for what he does, and like you say, we always see the end result for somebody. We don't see like the hard work that went before it, or the difficulties people have had, and
yeah,
it's sheer determination to get
yeah.
yourself.
And if you look at, this is something, the big part of what I'm doing now is trying to get people to define what success is to them, because
Yeah,
again, you can look at him, and if you're a bit confused as to what you want out of life, you could look at him or look at a famous actress or a famous singer and just say, oh, that's success. They've got money and they've got this, that, and the
mm,
other. But you could get all those things, but if it's not aligned to you, you're not going to be happy still.
yeah,
And like the best example is probably childhood actors that turn to drink and drugs and just
yeah,
fall off the radar because
mhm,
they're not. That's not who they wanted to be.
yeah,
Sometimes they've been pushed into it. Um, so one of my big things is you need to make time to figure out what you want, because it's not just going to fall into your lap. So I think you
yeah,
take. I'm big on pen and paper, and take an
yeah,
hour in the week to sit back and think, where would I like to be in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months,
yeah,
um, and not just setting goals, but just writing. I think it's good to write. This is what a perfect day would look like. This is what I'd
mm,
like my relationships to look like. This is how I'd like my health to be. This is how I'd like to be working.
yeah,
And just taking that bit of time for yourself away from distraction can help you start crafting where you'd like to be.
yeah,
But it's probably easier sometimes to immerse ourselves in busyness, um, and convince ourselves that things are okay the way they are, and to watch people we admire. It's easier to do that than sometimes it is to step away and take the hour to figure out what I'm not happy about.
yeah.
But awareness is obviously the first point.
Absolutely. And one of the things I would see, and I've experienced it myself, is a sense of procrastination. So some people think they procrastinate because, well, they just don't care or they're lazy or whatever that it might
Yeah,
be. But for me, when I'm dealing with people, I see procrastination as a bigger emotional reason, like what's going on with them. Like they either feel like they don't deserve it, or they're afraid of, actually going and trying what they want. And like you said, we spend so much time being busy or maybe trying to achieve our goals and not coming back to our actual selves. And I would agree, like putting pen to paper is one of the best ways, even just journaling down what your thoughts are to see what's going on in your mind. And so many of us don't give time to do that. And for me, when I work with people as well, I feel like their self care is absolutely fundamental to
mm,
achieving any success, whether
mm,
that's, just going out and learning how to drive, or like, for yourself going on an international platform. Um, and obviously, you're a wellness and fitness coach as well. So, would you see a correlation between how people look after their body and mind and where they're going and how they're going to achieve what they want?
yeah. I think you look at anyone who's successful, and my thoughts are kind of changing slightly on this in terms of
Yeah.
I'm um, probably not as strategic as I would have been on this stuff a year ago. I'm kind
Mhm.
of learning that it's got to be,
Mhm.
uh, it can't be a cookie cutter program. So,
Yeah.
I think successful people do some form of physical activity that keeps them vital.
Mhm.
Um, but to some people, that's a walk in the morning. To other people, it's an intense gym session. To other people, it's a swim. There's something, but it doesn't have to look a certain way. And I think probably one of the issues, or one of the mistakes, I wouldn't even say mistakes, but one of the things that I've done in the past is give like direct, you know, uh, ideas as to what I think a self-care regimen should look like.
Yeah.
And the problem is, what happens is people look at that or look at what someone else is doing, and they say, okay, I'm going to do that. And it works for a day or two, but
Mhm.
then it's not practical to them, and they feel worse, which is, not where you want them to be. And they feel worse again because, well, the successful person gave me the platform,
Mhm.
so they gave me what I needed to know, but I can't do it. They start judging themselves.
Yeah.
So I think on the most fundamental level, self love should be what makes you smile, what gives you joy, what makes you feel like a child again,
Yeah.
and just try to do that. Make time for that every day, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, or whatever it is. If you like painting, paint. If you like drawing, draw. If you like poetry, if you like running, if you like, um, some of us like drinking beer, but that doesn't work. But
Yeah.
there's something there, and
Yeah.
again, when you're distracted by the noise, you can't figure out what that something is. So again, I think it's taking space. Some of my coaching clients, I'll encourage them to do a freedom day every month where they take a full day away from social media, and they book in something that they've not done before, or something that they love doing, or it's just a day where no social media, no phone, no laptop, no distraction, no kids. A day for you to fill yourself up with energy, and that's kind of my thoughts, I suppose, on self care.
Yeah, I love the idea of a freedom day. I think that's brilliant, and some people need permission as well to actually go and look after themselves, which is a sad thing. I think when it can be a time based thing as well, but some people actually just don't prioritize themselves. So I think that's a really good idea and something people could take on board today.
For my guys, I was being generous when I said, or I was being probably a bit soft when I said, right, one day a month, because I felt no one could have an excuse with that.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, we tell ourselves stories. Like, I mean, I went on a retreat recently for 8 days, no phone, no laptop, and obviously I thought I'd crack up, but going for 8 days made me realize when I came back that I'm just too attached to these things, and I don't need to be. Again, it's just distraction. And oftentimes the distraction is from what you know that you know what you were supposed to, what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in the wrong relationship, if you're in the wrong job, and beyond knowing if you're in the wrong job, you probably know what the right job is. But it's harder to make the move than it is to be distracted, I think. But the freedom day, particularly for people that are overworked, it's essential, I think.
And for people like you just mentioned there that we all know, we know ourselves better than anybody else does, and we know what's right for us and what's wrong for us, whether we choose to admit it to ourselves or not. Like, would you have any advice on how people can even just go by taking the first step to moving themselves out of bad situations?
Yeah, so I think what you say about the first step is probably the key. That's again something that I've kind of learned was probably a year ago when I was talking in personal development seminars. I was almost telling people flip their lives 180 overnight. And again, that causes overwhelm, it causes stress, it causes people to doubt themselves. So I think the biggest thing to realize first and foremost is just got to be a subtle shift. Like, it's just got to be something small, whether that's, if you want to improve your health, you can get the perfect plan, but you're probably better off just going for a half an hour walk every day for the next week, if you're starting from scratch, and that's your starting point. And that helps you build momentum. If you want to change your career, you can quit your job in the morning, but again, that might be putting too much pressure on yourself. Yeah. Probably is. So the main advice would be, I suppose, this is only coming to me now, but if you just wrote a list of what's not working in my life right now, and if it's okay, well, I end up getting caught up in the office for an hour more than I should every day, then maybe your little change is to get out of the office on time and allow yourself do something you enjoy for 30 minutes to an hour, that you're not doing right now. If you're someone that says I have no idea what my life purpose is and no idea where I'm supposed to be, I have no idea, then I think it's literally just taking that day and writing stuff on paper.
Yeah.
And there's no set questions, but I like the one of where would I like to be in a year if things were better, or where am I settling in life is a good question to ask yourself. Because we can probably tell ourselves things are better than they are, but are you truly happy with your relationship, with your health, with your career, with your the amount of holiday, whatever it is. Again, I don't know if that answers the question, but
no, it really does. And I think, like you say, it's those subtle shifts of doing things. I even remember, like, last year I was doing a lot of late nights in terms of work, and I would start my day very early because of other circumstances going on. And I was finding myself, getting to a place where I was finding myself frustrated with work, but actually it was because I was doing the late nights and I was too tired. And just taking that and saying, okay, now I'm not going to do them and not make a big deal of it to myself and just see how it is. And I just made that transition really fast, brought back my love for my work.
Yeah.
And was doing something, like, I call it, like inspired action, taking action that feels good to your system.
Yeah.
It's...
The point you touch on there, I think, applies across the board with, you start getting annoyed with your work and thinking you hate the work because of something. Like, the thing is usually not the thing, they say. Yeah. So, like, the little fight that makes you and your partner blow up, or you and your family blow up, it wasn't that conversation that made it happen. It was an underlying thing that was happening. So generally you need to look a little bit further probably than, get to the root. So the root for you there was you were just overworked. So it's worth exploring these things as well and just figuring out. But the subtle shift, I think, makes, again, with relationships, I think if because I think relationships are fundamental, and the connection, not just intimate relationships, but family relationships, friends, all this kind of stuff, colleagues, it's fundamental, and it's something that we don't focus on enough because it's uncomfortable, because it's outside of ourselves. And I think people say if someone's got a bad relationship with a relative, again, they focus on trying to heal it overnight, and they probably do too much, whereas the subtle shift might be just going out for a coffee or something like that. So I always think just make the smallest change, and then see the result, and then make a small change again. And the analogy or the kind of visual representation is, if you think of the motorway and two roads side by side, and one makes a subtle, a couple of degrees shift to the left, it's going to obviously you're going to end up in a completely different place if you stay on that road than if you stayed on the initial one. So that's the subtle shift. It doesn't make things look different overnight, but over 3 months, 6 months, a year, it just changes everything.
Absolutely. And as well as taking those inspired action steps, and maybe to give you those subtle shifts, you touched on relationships and like they've been a fundamental part of our lives. Do you think for people who are trying to move forward that it's important to have, like-minded people and a good community? Like, obviously not everyone in our life is going to be on the same wavelength as us, or it wouldn't be interesting if it was, but do you think it's important for people who might have difficult relationships to create better boundaries or to look after themselves more in those situations?
Obviously I think your social circle makes a massive impact on how you feel and how you act, but the biggest thing I've learned, I suppose, on the relationships front, or the biggest thing I'm learning, I said it in my TEDx talk, is the world is a mirror. And what I've learned, I suppose, my belief around people that we admire or that we respect is that they've got certain traits that we admire and respect. It's not necessarily the person, it's the traits that they have. So we talk about Conor McGregor, it's self-belief, work ethic, talking things into existence, family man. These are the traits I would admire in him. But the reason I admire those things are because I know they're within me, and I need to bring them out more. So the people that you want to associate with have got certain traits that you want to bring out more. But then equally, the people that you don't like or that drive you cracked, again, it could be people within your social circle now that aren't, they're just annoying you, or you're not happy with them. One of the things I would look at there is, what are the things that are annoying you about them? And then where are you being that way in your own life? Because generally the world is a mirror, and it's just holding up something to you. So, if your friend always turns up late for lunch, that might annoy you about them, and it might start to become an issue. But I would look at it and say, okay, where am I not being time diligent? Because it's probably the case more often than not. There's a reason people agitate us, I think. I really think it's a mirror being held up to ourselves. So that's a little off tangent, but that's been huge for me in terms of because the trait stops annoying you once you accept it and you move past it. So
that's it. And also it's a sense of projection, like you say, you're seeing in them something that's actually going on with you in a good or a bad way. So I think, like you were saying, it's important with relationships. If you're, obviously if a relationship is very toxic to you, it's important to have those boundaries. But if it's just like little annoyances and things like that, it can be good, like you've mentioned there, to kind of accept it, and then it doesn't become as annoying. And I think that, sorry, go ahead there, sorry.
Sorry, no, I just go off on tangent. Another thing, I suppose, another way of sort of belief with the whole idea of the world as a mirror, I think whatever you want from someone, you need to show it first, and it will show up. So again, if you got a bad relationship with a parent, or with an ex-partner, or with someone that you want a better relationship with, I would look at what would I love from this person. So I want a hug, I want a meaningful conversation, I want to be acknowledged, I want to be forgiven. I'd look at what I want, and then I'd try to act first and take the first step, because they're probably going to reciprocate.
Absolutely.
But it's just having the courage. I think relationships are the hardest thing, because again, it's having the courage to speak your truth. And it's easy to have the dreams in your head and everything else, but it's hard to say things aloud, particularly when it's to another person, particularly when it's vulnerable. But I think when you're vulnerable, you just give yourself an opportunity to really make a connection with someone.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, I think everything you said there is brilliant about if it's something that you're looking for, to give it first, and to give it without expectation as well, that
Exactly.
you're just
Yeah.
handing it over. And it's kind of a little bit off topic, but it's something that just came into my mind. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Hawaiian tradition, which is a thing called Ho'oponopono. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, like that's all about, for any of the listeners that don't know, it's kind of a 3-stage mantra, I think, and it's saying, I love you, forgive you. I think it's, I love you, forgive me.
I love you. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Oh yes,
Please. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me and thank you.
thank you. Yeah. And it's a powerful mantra that you can say while thinking of a person that you might have an issue with. And I've actually used this myself. About 4 years ago, somebody told me about it, and on YouTube you can find brilliant people that are doing the meditation of it. But it is a really great thing, and it really goes back to the fact that, on a deeper level, some people believe there's karmic energy between people as well, and lessons we learn in this life and in previous lives as well. And this is supposed to, I suppose, clear any of that karmic energy in the present moment. So it's something that, listeners can tap into as well. I find it a really, really great process, and one that gets you to really relax. Saying those words over and over, which is part of the process. You actually can feel really emotional about it, because you're thinking, yeah, like this is actually what it's all about. It's about like a heart connection and a soul connection with people. Like we're all here and we're all so interconnected, and we're all here to live a purpose and to help each other do that. And I think, like, for someone like yourself, I follow you on Facebook and I listen to your videos and your podcasts and everything, because I get so much inspiration from them. So when someone like you is going out into the world and having an impact like that, you're helping people to change, and they can go on and help people change, and so on and so on. And I think if more of us were, trying to bring the light out in more people, as well as doing it for ourselves first, we can have such a ripple effect and really create great change in the world, I think.
I think an interesting one for people to do would be the whole idea with the traits thing, of the good traits and the bad traits in people. I think if you can grasp that, and obviously we're all learning all the time, so I don't know how much I've grasped it. I'll probably look back in a few years and think I didn't know anything, but it's been a big thing for me. It's just helped me be a lot more grounded and carefree and kind of in control, understanding that, again, the things I see in other people that I admire are within me, and I just need to bring them out more. The things that I see in other people that annoy me are within me, and I just need to not show up that way. So if the people listening were to pick one person you admire and 3 traits in that person, and then pick one person who drives you a bit crazy, and pick those 3 traits for each, good and bad, and then list. I mean, I've done a course where we listed 100 reasons for each one, but I would list 10 reasons or 10 ways you're the exact same. So if you say work ethic, then list 10 ways that you work hard or you've worked hard in the past. If you say for the negative traits, they're stubborn, list 10 ways that you're stubborn, and it'll start to show you. And if you sit there and nothing comes to you, just wait till something comes, because we have to accept that we have all the good and all the bad, and we just need to. There's a reason this stuff is showing up again and again and again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll do that exercise. Right, you have to be really honest with yourself as well. And I think sometimes we, like I said earlier, we all know about ourselves. Like, we have to dig deep a lot of times to get there, but I think an exercise like that is really good for building you up, as well as making you look at things you need to work on.
Yeah, I've just started studying Debbie Ford. I don't know if you've done any of her stuff. She has a book called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal. She died a couple of years ago, but her theory is that most of us suppress, and again, we project our bad stuff on other people because we don't want to admit that we have it within us. But her thing is that if you don't admit that you have those things within you, you can't experience the polar opposite of that. So we'll say, if you can't admit that there's some hate within you, you can never experience true love. If you can't admit that you're one way, you can't experience the if you ignore the dark side. You think of yin and yang. If you ignore the dark side of the circle, you can never have the full extent of the bright side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's, it's that same idea, but I find it powerful.
Absolutely. I remember years ago going for an astrology reading, and the guy started listing out qualities in relation to something else we were talking about, and the qualities were pretty hard. And then he turned around and looked at me and said, "So you have them?" And I was in complete shock, because as he was talking about them, I thought, God, they're really, really hard, but to take, and like he said exactly what you're saying, but transmute it, change the energy with it, go into it and come out of it. And I think it is, like you say, it's about going there, being honest with ourselves, and bringing it to a higher level, really, It's brilliant. And just the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and I know this is something I've read that you've talked about a lot, and it would definitely be something that I would work with my own clients with as well, is the element of gratitude. So when things are going really wrong is the time where I always say to people, find, you say it as well, 3 things. I say 5 things that you're grateful for. And I've had some people say, I can't, there's nothing I'm grateful for. And I would say, well, be grateful that when you walked to work today, it wasn't raining, that it was sunny. Like, start off. And the more gratitude we give, the more we'll see the good in our life, and the more we'll create better in our life. What's your opinion on gratitude, and how has it helped you in your life?
It's huge, and it's almost like the other thing where you're listing the good traits and the bad traits, in the sense that if you look, you'll always find the answer. As in, okay, you crashed the car this morning, so you'll say, what do I have to be grateful for? Well, maybe you phoned your friend and they picked you up and they brought you to work, so that's one thing you could be grateful for. The repair people came and picked up the car, that's another thing. You didn't get hurt, you have a car in the first place. There's always, and it's just looking a little bit beyond. But Tony Robbins, who's obviously the guru with a lot of this stuff, he has a good quote to live by, and it's when you trade your expectations for appreciation, your whole world changes. So oftentimes you just do the opposite what the masses do, and you'll do pretty well. So the masses always, they expect things. So they expect their food to be a certain way, they expect their friends to show up a certain way, they expect their parents to be a certain way. They've got all these expectations. And then when the world doesn't bend to their expectations, they get pissed off or angry or sad or whatever it is. The opposite of expectation, I suppose, is gratitude, in the sense that you're grateful for what you have, and you can bring more into your life because you're just coming from a loving place as opposed to a fearful place, or a hateful place. Fearful, I suppose. Fearful is you're afraid of uncertainty. You need things to be in an exact way. That's what expectation is. I need things to be this way, or I'm not going to be happy. Gratitude is love. I appreciate what I have, and I'm open to more, or I'm open to whatever. That's how I would see it. It was something I started doing with my fat loss clients, and they didn't really get the meaning of it, but without fail, a couple of weeks in, anyone that did it consistently said that things were showing up in their life, and they just felt better, and they said, like, I didn't expect this to be a part of the program that really did much for me, but it's been surprising.
Absolutely, because the basis of life really is love, and our connections to people come from a state of love, as well as to ourselves, self-love being the one that we need to start with. So if you're offering gratitude, it's going to, and you're feeling it, it makes you feel better. It brings you into a different place in yourself to go on then to create better things in your life. And again, like I was saying earlier, to help other people do the same thing. It's powerful, really, really powerful.
Yeah, and then another similar exercise, I would do with the weight loss clients, or with anyone, is, list 20 things you love about yourself. Or list 20 things you love about your body. Or list 20 things you appreciate about your body. And for someone who beats themselves up all the time and isn't showing themselves that self-love, that exercise alone can shift their thinking. And you'll say, oh, there's nothing there that I'm, but there is. There's always something there. So it's a lot of it comes back to the pen and paper, because it's just bringing awareness to these things. And I was reading I was at a conference a few days. It was at that it came up, and it was an entrepreneurial conference over in Connecticut, and amazing people there. They're kind of not just great business owners, but people making big differences in the world in different ways. But it was a session on journaling. Just there was some interesting stuff came up about writing and that kind of thing. And someone was saying, because someone asked the question, can I just type because I prefer typing?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy said that there's something where when your fingers grip a pen, um, there's so many neurons or whatever that come into play that hit your brain cells, and it just awakens you in a different way. Just everything gets firing when you use, as opposed to the kind of numbness of typing, hitting keys. You know,
Yeah.
it's a lost art. We don't really write anymore once we leave school or college.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was one thing. Another thing he had was a bit off topic, but he was saying one of the things he does when he's journaling is often he'll write with his weak hand if he's struggling to find an answer because it taps into his subconscious. So we write with our strong hand and we're just going through the motions, but or we're doing consciously maybe. But he reckons, okay, so you're struggling with an issue. He says, write with your opposite hand, you're going to get different answers. And the way actually he demonstrated that was, he said, think of the animal that comes into your head that represents you. What animal are you? Write with your strong hand. And then you have people do the opposite, and people are getting different answers. A lot of people, so it just gives you new perspectives. But that's kind of off topic. But
Yeah, no, God, that sounds really interesting as well. And getting you to think, you know,
yeah,
I would journal a huge amount, and just random things. Sometimes I meditate, and after a meditation, I just write out whatever kind of came to mind.
yeah,
And I have, I'd say I have about 50 notebooks around the house, and I find them from time to time. I found one the other day from 2008. And, you know, the stuff I was writing about and where I was at the time and how things have changed and actually how things have got to where I want them to be. Yes, through goal setting, but also like through a lot of what you said today, just kind of going towards your purpose and going towards that joy-filled stuff as well. Because great stuff can happen when you open that space.
100%.
So yeah, I love that. I think that's something, again, the listeners could try. I definitely was going to try it as well. I've lots of homework to do now after this conversation. And just to finish off, what would your personal definition of happiness be?
Happiness. Oh God. I mean, I've defined success as being able to do what you want, where you want, when you want, with whom you want. Happiness. I don't know. For me, I mean, the life I want to live is I want to have a lot of adventure in my life. I want to have great connections with myself and with other people in my life. I want to have a great impact. I want to contribute in a great way, and I want to add a lot of value to the world. That's my life mission. So if I can do that, that's happiness for me. So have great. Yeah. I don't
Sorry,
know.
put you on the spot there.
Is that cheating?
No, that's good. That sounds great. Yeah, thanks very much for doing that.
Well, happiness is just, yeah, happiness is again, I'm coming back to another journaling thing, but popped into my head. I wrote love versus fear, which again, the two kind of states that we come from. Love is where we show up as ourselves, I think, and fear is where we put on a mask.
Yeah.
And for me, the love side was who I want to be as much of the time as I can. Because there's always going to be some masks that come up. But love was things like I show up for my friends open hearted and I speak my truth, and I'm not afraid to dance, I'm not afraid to sing, I'm not afraid to, so I suppose happiness for me is living in a state of love in that regard and not wearing any mask and trying to progressively take off all the masks.
Yeah, that's really good. Really, really good. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Pat, for allowing me to interview you today.
Thank you.
You're the first person I've interviewed as part of this series, so I really appreciate you taking the time out. I just was going to mention about your Camp Reconnect that you're holding on the 11th to the 13th of November in Galway. Do you want to mention a few little bits about that? Because I think it's tapping into a lot of what you were saying today. I know it's about connecting back into your real self as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. It's the first time I've done it like this. I've done similar retreats, which are kind of 3 days retreats, and there's been like profound changes in people, which has been great. But basically doing 3 days of about 100 people. So I still got tickets up on my website.
Great.
We'll do about 100 people, but I'm not giving a lot away, but people are going to do a lot of things they've never done before in terms of activities. There's going to be a couple of dinners, so obviously group dinners, but it's 3 days down in Galway of lectures. I've got myself obviously speaking. I've got speakers coming in from England and from Cyprus. There's going to be talks on kind of emotional health, emotional blockages, self-development, self-acceptance, self-love. There's going to be meditation and yoga. There's going to be exercise sessions. There's going to be a lot happening. I kind of feel like we're going to pack more into 3 days than most people maybe have packed into, I don't know how long. But I want people to try new things. I want people to reconnect with who they are. I want people to have that space to kind of, the theory with having all the activities is going to be we'll do some work, we'll do some journaling, we'll have some lectures, and then we'll go and do some activities to kind of let the stuff process a little bit and then come back to it. And, I think we can accomplish a massive amount in 3 days. And to be honest, the network alone that you'll meet at something like this is worth its weight in gold. And previous seminars, I've just seen people become best friends in a short period of time because there is that openness and there's the kind of connectivity and there's the willingness to share who you want to be and how you want to live.
That sounds fantastic. Really, really good, and I hope it goes really well, as I'm sure it will. If any of you want details on this, you can visit Pat's website at patdivilly.com, and also keep an eye out for his new book that's going to be available for purchase in October called Upgrade Your Life. So again, Pat, thanks so much for joining me today, and you've given, I'm sure, loads of information to the listeners and to myself as well, so I really appreciate it, and wish you continued success with everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much, you too.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. Please do come on over to CarolineMariaMeade.com and join a like-minded community in the Mindful Motivating Membership Club.